we know she's entitled to only 3 weeks of vacation automatically. So we know there's 1 week that has to come from somewhere else. We know that the previous there's a previously unused half for this year. So we know there's also another way she can get vacation, which is that she can only get vacation if she can get vacation. She can carry vacation over from the previous year at the rate of 2 to 1. So if she has 1 week of vacation this year, there must have been 2 weeks of vacation last year carry over in order for her to bring those 2 weeks into 1 week this year. So we have that 2 weeks. So this one looks promising. So we're going to put a dot next to this answer. B, if Jennifer continued to work at XZC Manufacturing, she will only be entitled to 3 weeks paid vacation next year. Now, that also looks tempting because we have a rule that says if she works at XEZ between 1 and 4 years, she's entitled to 3 weeks of vacation. However, there's one kind of problem with that. Let's look at our previous, how long has Jennifer actually been working at XVZ? And we know from step 1 that she's been working from rule 1, she's been working over 3 years. And we know she's now worked an additional year. So she'll have worked more than 4 years, not between 1 and 4 years. So Rule 2 doesn't actually tell us anything about her vacation policy after she's worked more than 4 years. So while that looks tempting, there's no reason it must be true because it's not bound by any of the rules we already have. So B, no good. The majority of XVZ's employees use each year all of the paid vacation time to which they are entitled to. Okay, that one's very easy to disregard. We don't know anything about the majority of XVZ's employees. There's nothing about these rules which implies anything about the majority of XVZ's employees. The only thing we know anything about is Jennifer. So C, easy to get rid of, we'll cross it out. Last year, Jennifer took only 1 week of the paid vacation time to which she was entitled. Okay, now that kind of looks tempting, and we can kind of build off our knowledge of A, because when we looked at, when we examined step A, because step A told us that she must have 2 weeks of vacation carried over from the previous year in order to take 1 week off this year. So she didn't take 2 weeks off last year. And we know she only gets 3 weeks of vacation every year. So 3 minus 2 is 1. However, the problem with that is, remember step 3 is that a previous year's vacation can be carried over at half the rate. So there's the possibility that that the vacation from the year prior to that informed the vacation time she receives this year. So we're going to kind of make this a little simpler for us. So we're going to just draw out here 1, 2, 3. So we're right now in year 3. So I'm going to circle year 3. And the question is asking us about year 2. But prior to year 2 was year 1. So into year 1, she received 3 weeks of vacation, but she could have carried some of that over to year 2. So we can kind of draw that out here, year 1 to year 2. And so that tells us that means that we're not quite clear whether or not she only took 1 year of paid vacation time to which she was entitled to. It's possible that she took more because she didn't take vacation time in year 1. And so that little diagram, the 1, 2, 3 diagram, helps us here because it makes us remember, okay, there's a year 1, there's a year 1 prior to the year prior to this year. And so that's kind of a good check. They checked that little detail last year. If she had said 2 years ago, that question might have been true. If they said 2 years ago, Jennifer took only 1 week of paid vacation, and they were referring to, and then 2 years ago, she was only paid 1 week of paid vacation to which she was entitled to. I'm sorry. And the question overall asked about year 2, it's saying that she only worked there 2 years, then that question might have been true, but it's not because we've got that extra year there to which she could have carried over into this year. Hopefully I made that not overly complicated. I've got a nice diagram here that kind of makes it a little clearer. Unfortunately, I can't show it because it would look backwards. But yeah, hopefully that kind of comes through. Excellent. Last one. E. XVZ manufacturing sometimes allows extra vacation time to employees who need to spend more time with their families. Okay, so again, we can pretty quickly disregard this one because there's nothing in the question this question is about Jennifer. It's not about XVZ Manufacturing's policies. But I think we're gonna. I mean, what would make you think that this one would be accurate? Well, we know that Jennifer has worked at XVZ Manufacturing for just 3 years, and she plans to spend with her family the entire 4th week of paid vacation. So she's using an extra year this year. So one could conclude hypothetically that is because XVZ Manufacturing sometimes allows vacation time for employees who need to spend more time with their families because she's spending time with her family. The reason why this statement doesn't have to be true or could be false is because of, we can go back, let's look at another rule, Rule 3. And Rule 3 tells us a previous year's vacation can be carried over at half the rate. So there's an alternative explanation as to how Jennifer would have accumulated that 1 year, other than the fact that XVZ Manufacturing just simply allows extra vacation times to employees who need to spend more time with their families. So we have an alternative explanation as to how she got that extra week. So that would kind of, extra week. So that's why this statement could be false as well, and we can cross it out. So kind of to recap all of this. So the first step is, when we examine the question, we look at, well, what section of the test are we in? We're in logical reasoning. Step 1, we're in logical reasoning. Step 2, since we're in logical reasoning, we're going to look at the second paragraph first. We're going to look at the little paragraph first. We're going to figure out what the whole question is about before we approach and attack the question. We figured out the question is a must be true. Step 3, we're going to go and read the large paragraph that gives us a description of the question. The trick here is we only want to read this once. I prefer to be, now we only want to read this once. We're aware that it's a must be true question, so that's going to approach how we read it. And we're going to read this as a collection of rules. And breaking this part into a series of rules and taking those rules to figure out what other rule must be true. So we start writing, we start going through that question, we identify the rules, and then we ask ourselves, we look at the answers, we go one at a time, we try to read each one only once, and we ask ourselves, could this statement be false? CBF, could this statement be false? And then we try to figure out, based upon the rules that we already have derived from reading the large paragraph, which of the smaller statements could be false. Things to look out for that we've identified here. One is if the subject is clearly nothing to do with the actual